There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Um, okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, good.
I I I I, I got a little bit of a delay or something right now. I'm not sure why.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You keep kind of stopping and stalling. Hopefully it'll work itself out.
And, well, yours frequently does that.
It does. I'm on the satellite for internet. The good news is that they've over the last 3 weeks or so, my entire complex where I live, it's a large development.
Uh-huh.
AT&T just put in all brand new cable, which was never here before.
Ah.
State of the art, high speed. So as soon as it's available for me to buy that service from them, I'm switching internet. So I should soon have really good internet.
Ah. How nice.
So
That'll
yeah,
be pleasant.
yeah, and hopefully they'll have some introductory deals that make the price worthwhile and everything. But
Yeah.
it's been so annoying. I've been here almost a year now, and I'm just really tired of this satellite internet, which I won't go into the story of why I ended up having to use it, but it's just been annoying. So I'm looking forward to getting rid of
Yeah.
it as soon as
I
possible. I'll be AT&T's first customer in this complex if I can be.
Yeah.
Seriously. So soon, hopefully soon.
So you're here for your private class.
Oh, okay. Is Bill okay?
I I think he's okay. I don't he sent me a text yesterday that both he and his wife were having to deal with medical issues today. And I don't know quite what
Right.
that means, but
Okay.
he didn't sound what little I could get from a text, it didn't sound all bad. I don't know. His
Right.
wife, is
Okay.
recovering from an operation, and I think she's had some difficulty with that, but
Right.
it's been coming along. So
Right.
I don't know. He's
Okay.
so
Well,
you're
we'll
it
do what we
today.
can. Okay. We'll do what we can, and hopefully you can see a reasonable amount of what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. So, do you arrive with any questions?
well, I mean, I've in the practice I've been able to do since our last class, the main two things are that I've been focusing on are the continued breathing that we talk about, which I'm usually pretty good at. But as I mentioned last week, one thing I realized when we started focusing on it is I do have a hesitation at the end of my exhale.
Yep.
I go straight from my inhale to my exhale, and then just natural, normal breath is there's a hesitation, which I never really realized until I started thinking about it. So I'm trying, when I'm practicing, I'm trying to work through that and keep the breath going and the energy going. So I'm working on that.
Good.
And the other thing is the main thing, which I've been doing for some time, which you mentioned again last week, is um, you know, when I'm flowing, whether it's the eight gates or the form, trying to extend and bend and twist all the way through my fingertips, which often my fingertips kind of freeze and I forget about. So I've
Yeah.
been trying to focus on that a little bit more because I really need to get past that hump As I mentioned last week, I'm thinking more about relaxing and opening up from the shoulder blades forward, but I don't kind of let it go all the way to the fingertips.
Yep.
And I know you had said before last week, well, we should start at the fingertips and work back. And I've kind of been doing a little bit in reverse, but I'm working on that. So any advice or tips or whatever to help me further that, this certainly would be helpful.
Well, beyond what I suggested last week, I don't have a lot of suggestion. Um,
Right. Or just mention it whenever you see me doing it because I certainly need to be made aware of it all
yeah,
the time. So,
I think the thing um, certainly it's the way that I was taught, and what I was talking about last week was doing some practice where you just are focusing on the arms,
mm,
and you simply try to feel what's happening in the hands and the fingers.
right.
And if you feel like you can feel the energy coming in and going out of that, then you add the wrist.
Mm,
And when you can get through the wrist and feel it in the forearm, you go to the elbow. And and sometimes it just takes a while to. Usually, the elbow is difficult to get through for most of us.
right.
Um, the shoulder, yes, also, but maybe not as much if we can keep it relaxed. If
Yeah.
if if in doing this you're tensing the shoulder, it's going to get in the way of everything.
Yeah,
So
occasionally my shoulder does get a little bit tense. I've always been pretty good about when I do think about the scapula and relaxing and opening and closing. I've always been pretty good about feeling the energy pulsing and flowing through that.
yeah,
But my shoulders do have a tendency to I forget about them and I do occasionally tense them, especially if I bring my arms up a little too high in whatever I'm doing.
yep.
So,
Um,
okay.
so what I'm saying is to do that practice
Yeah.
of just focusing, and and if you can't get through the wrist, stay with it, work on it.
Right.
Let the wrist, as I said last week, the wrist is very subtle. It it bends a little, but it doesn't bend very much.
Mhm.
Um, it of course twists along with everything else, um, and it
Right.
lengthens with everything else, and it opens and closes with everything else. It goes through everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, that exercise really I found um, to be a really good one to help really open that up. And when you can get the flow going through the arm, then you work on the legs.
Right. Yeah, I think reminding me of that little slight bend in the wrist. I do I don't really think of that often especially when I am keeping my fingers kind of inadvertently keeping them kind of stiff, and
Yep,
that just is combined with forgetting to let the wrist bend also just kind of keeps the whole hand and wrist in a disadvantageous position, and that's what I'm trying to work on
yep,
most. I think once I get that to be less of a conscious thing, then I'm gonna be doing much better in terms of feeling the energy all the way through. And then, because I do occasionally, I can sense it occasionally on my, in and out on the outer arms.
uh-huh.
Not very often, but when I do it right, I do have some sensation of it. And I
Well,
know I
good,
can have more
good,
sensation when I
uh-huh.
start doing it right.
Great.
Yeah.
Um, how d how much of longevity breathing do you are you actually able to um, feel do?
What do you mean exactly by longevity breathing?
Um, not only the movement of the lower dantian, but the sides, the lower back, the mid back into the kidneys, the upper back into the heart, and the last piece is to breathe into the brain.
I've never, other than the Dantian, which I can do very well, your lower Dantian, I've never let go of that for all these years. Um, I've never really worked a lot on the others for whatever reason. I think the 6 or 7 years when I first moved up here, when I wasn't taking classes with you, I think that's when you kind of transitioned into teaching that more. Because I did not learn that when I was still in Connecticut. So I've
Yeah.
never really technically had a time when I learned that from you.
So that's the the side of the ribs is the second second one to work on.
Okay.
And when you're just sitting and breathing, what you can do is just very lightly place your fingertips on your side, and you can start down at the level of your midriff. And usually that area moves pretty easily with the dantian. And it should have, you want it to be doing the same thing that the dantian is doing, expanding at the moment, expanding on the inhale and contracting on the exhale.
So is midriff, is that the region like right below the lower rib?
Yeah.
Okay.
So feeling that area and the lowest rib or two, because the ribs
Okay.
should move in this, and they'll be pretty subtle for most of us, particularly when you begin.
Right.
So if you can get that lower area moving with the dantian, then you go up to the middle, halfway between the armpit and the midriff, and you
Yeah.
want that area to also expand and contract, and that will begin to be very subtle, or more subtle anyway.
In doing this, David, are you coordinating the Dantian movement with the regular breath
That's what I
or
said,
not?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then the final one is to go up to the ribs into the armpit. So eventually you should be able to inhale and feel some movement all the way from the midriff to the armpit. So if you haven't worked on this before, as always,
Mhm.
separate and then combine. So focus on the midriff, and if that begins to feel as if you are moving both sides equally with the dantian, then go to the middle of the ribs. Just work up, and that would be the next stage in longevity breathing.
Okay. Um, do you do this when you do the 8 gates, and do you
Yep,
do it when you do the form? You
all
doing
the
it in all
time,
things?
all the
Oh,
time.
okay. Uh,
So um, obviously there are other parts of this, but um, since you haven't worked on this before, I would just focus on the sides for now. And
All right.
so that as whatever you're doing, whenever you're breathing, and the nice thing about this is that you don't have to be particularly practicing to do it. You have 30 seconds between two phone calls. You can practice your breathing, and it
Yeah.
is
I mean, that's how when we were learning breathing without breathing way back when, I used to practice it all the time,
yeah,
in the store while I'm driving, all the time.
yep.
So,
But um, the thing that I feel that Master Joe did not emphasize is that you have to start out with getting what the Taoists call longevity breathing first, and then do breathing without breathing,
hmm,
because you need to be
okay.
breathing. Ideally, you need whether you're breathing with the movement or doing breathing without breathing, you want to be breathing throughout the entire body and activating all of those areas. It's particularly important to breathe into the kidneys because that's how you um, really how you maintain the level of Jing in your body.
Uh, Jing being
Le- the life force.
the born chi that we're born with.
Yep, yep, right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Which you,
that's pretty important.
yeah, it's pretty important. Um, and breathing. One of the wonderful things about when you get into being able to breathe into the upper back is that it causes um, movement that exercises the heart and the lungs more, but particularly the heart.
Is that what we're trying to do by breathing way is going from the bottom up and involving all of the organs, you know, progressively?
It actually eventually simultaneously, not progressively.
Right, right. But I mean, learning it, you know,
Yeah, we're learning it.
step by step with the
Yeah.
goal of having, with each breath, having all of the organs being involved simultaneously, like you said.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
because it helps if I'm thinking about what I'm trying to do overall and then doing it piece by piece. And as you said, then trying to kind of put it all together.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So that'll give you a little something to work on too. I didn't realize that we'd never worked on that. Um, and you're right. I think
Yeah.
my understanding of that probably grew during that time when you had moved to Florida.
Yeah. No, when I did start back with you, not in this class, but in the class one, I forget if I took one or two other classes before this with you, but you touched on it in that class. But even that was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
And we didn't go into it in great depth. You did mention it and talk about it a little bit. We did a little bit of practice with it, I think, because I had not done it before, but I kind of let go of it for whatever reason at that point,
Well,
um,
I,
instead of pursuing it more.
I may not have been emphasizing it in that particular class. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just one of those things we mentioned one day that to kind of because you started talking about it, I think one or two of the other people in there had done it somewhat and I hadn't. And but again, that was a couple of years ago, and
yeah,
I haven't really done anything with it. So it's good, very good to remind me of this, and I'm sure I will have some questions.
yeah. It's longevity breathing is the first of the 16 Neigong elements that we're trying to combine in everything that we do. And and it really is, you have to have that full breathing throughout the entire body, really, before you do breathing without breathing, in order for the breathing without breathing to function correctly. Because
Hmm.
if we just focused on the dantian, we get, there's certainly benefit to that. That's not a negative. Certainly, it is a positive, but
Right.
it's not nearly as positive as breathing with the entire body.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, all those years when I did work on breathing without breathing, I certainly did feel a benefit, a sizable benefit of doing that over just regular long breath, regular breathing.
Uh huh.
Um, I always did feel quite a bit like it was a pump for the energy when I was flowing through whatever I was flowing through. So it will be very interesting to see how much more that can do now that I have a better understanding of
Yeah.
longevity breath. So yeah, and again, whenever you can remind remind us of this in our regular classes or bring it up or whatever to keep me thinking in those terms again would be appreciated.
Uh huh. Okay. So, want to do some eight gates?
Yeah, well, can we do a flow where you do a couple classes ago you had mentioned brought up again or reminded us of the coordination of the organs with each
Mm,
of the postures. Can we do a flow where you talk through that a little bit while we're doing it so that I can flow with that when I watch
sure.
the video again?
Sure.
I'll make note of this video because I'd like to be able to get that to be part of my flow. And right now it's not at all. So,
Yeah, that is a really good element. I mean, it's there. As always, there are numerous things going on, but that's a
right.
particularly important focus. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and each time I do the 8 gates, I'm usually thinking about one aspect or another, bending, stretching, whatever I'm thinking of at that time. Lately, as I mentioned, it's been kind of relaxing and extending of the fingers and the wrists and all that. But
Mm.
having a video to follow that talks about the organs, I think would be really helpful as well to use that. So,
Okay. Sure.
all right,
I can do that.
that would be great. Got to turn down my volume on my phone.
Okay. So stepping out, coming into into your basic structure. And just pausing there for a moment, being aware, relaxing into this position. Letting go of as much tension as you can. Yourself be as aware as possible at this moment. And then focus on your breathing for a moment, being aware first of the dantian expanding as you inhale, and contracting a little as you exhale without effort. Not involving the muscles consciously. And then focus on the lower rib area, the midriff and the very lowest ribs. And make sure that they are also expanding as you inhale. And contracting a little on your exhale. Then flowing into the 8 gates, coming up and focusing on the upper dantian, one of the primary gateways into the brain. As you go down to Kun Earth, focusing on the lower dantian, that gateway into the physical body. Really feeling the energy move in and out of the dantian. Then feeling the kidneys, breathing into the kidneys and out. Eventually having some expansion and contraction in that mid-back area. And focusing on the heart. focusing on the liver. Feel the organ expanding and contracting with your movement. Lungs. And then focusing on the spleen. Finally into the middle dantian, and eventually connecting to the heart-mind, Shin. And inhale down, exhale up, and inhale, drawing down the central channel into your dantian. So did that raise any further questions?
Uh, no, but it gives me an awful lot to think about when I'm flowing through that now, which is good. Including my realization of keeping my regular breath going without that hesitation after the exhale too, because I did that a lot during
Mm.
that. When I was focusing on the other things, I just, as I said, kind of my default breath is, for whatever reason, is a hesitation at the end of my exhale. So I've got to kind of keep working on that as well.
Yeah.
But this is good. This is a good. It's easier to work on it during the 8 gates than during the form.
Oh, yeah.
So um,
Absolutely.
no, this was exactly what I needed. So I'm going to bookmark that. I have a few little tabs here on my computer where I bookmark certain things that I need to go back and follow
Yeah.
regularly, and most of them are kind of well in the past now. But I need to put that up there so I
Uh-huh.
can flow with this because it's very helpful when I have all of your narrative while we're doing it.
Uh-huh. Sure. Good.
Yep.
So, um, as you focus on each of those areas, you want to feel them specifically expanding and contracting. So, when you're breathing into the heart, ideally you feel your heart move. And when you breathe into your liver, you feel your liver move.
which I have never felt. So it's what I mean. What is that like when you first start to have that realization?
Um, uh, Whenever you do. Uh, I don't know that I can uh, give you any particular time when that happens.
No, no, I'm not asking of a timeline. I'm asking what is the feeling, the sensation that you experienced when that first did happen?
Um, I think I first felt my liver, which being
Yeah,
large is perhaps a little easier to feel than, say, the spleen, which is very small and located in an area where um, it's a little more difficult to feel.
right.
But um, 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 I don't know what I could say. I feel um, I feel like I can feel an expansion and contraction inside my body.
Hmm, okay,
Um, in other words, not I'm not just feeling this part of my body expand and contract. There's a separate feeling inside.
right. Okay.
Um, I don't know. It's um, it's one of those things.
I yeah, I understand. It's probably hard to quantify into words, but just I was just curious what you had to say
Yeah,
about it.
no, that's fine. I I don't know. I don't know whether I ever told you this, but just this helped me in a way in that I I realized the reality of all of that. Um, at one point, um, Harvard Medical School got Bruce to come in and uh, they did all kinds of studies on what he could do, and
Right.
and one of the things that he could do, and they could actually see it, was that he could not only expand and contract a specific organ um, at will, but
Right.
he could move the organ in different directions at will.
Wow. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, um,
Jeez.
that's way beyond most people's ability.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Um,
Did they publish any kind of a study about this or anything that I could read up on it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. They may have. I suppose there might have been an article about it um,
Right.
in the Harvard Medical. It's been many years ago.
Right.
Um, I I heard about it back in the '90s, so um, it's at least that long ago.
You faded. Did you say 19 something?
'90s,
When did you hear about it? 90s. Okay.
'90s.
I lost you for a second there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Um, that was also, yeah, when was it? 90. '96 or '97 when Bruce came to the farm. The only time he ever came to Master Joe's festival, um,
Right.
and I did a workshop with him in which he was talking about all of these things, and among them was that um, eventually one should be able to expand and contract the plates of the skull.
Wow.
And I was about 3 or 4 feet away from him as he was demonstrating this, and it was pretty freaky
Wow.
because you could see his skull literally expand and contract. Not a huge amount, of course, but
Oh,
the
all right.
movement was very definitely there.
Wow.
But the other the other thing is that um, we have to remember that Bruce has been a crazy practicer all his life since he was a
Right.
teenager,
Wow.
practicing hours and hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
When he was in
Yeah.
China, he practiced almost always, I think, 6 to 8 hours a day, and often more.
Wow.
Uh, that's how you get there, you know,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to his level. Um,
Yeah. Huh.
anyway,
How
and
much does he still do these days?
how much does he still do?
Yeah.
Oh, he's teaching several classes a week,
Huh.
and I know he does private lessons um,
Right.
with he has several students who live at his school in Colorado, um, and I know he
Wow.
does private lessons with them.
Right.
Um, yeah, he's very active. He's in his 70s.
Huh. Yeah.
He's
I
a
was thinking, I didn't know exactly how old. I was thinking 70-ish was my impression of how old
yeah,
he was.
he's he's a young guy
Yeah.
compared to me.
Yeah. Mm.
He's one of the things he's putting out right now, which is kind of interesting, is he's actually in process of a series of audio conversations with his two sons about Zhuangzi, um, and they're fascinating. And it's also interesting to hear his two sons, who are grown at this point, of course.
Right.
Um,
What was the topic again, David? That he's talking to them?
Zhuangzi, he's
Well, with,
the second most important Taoist writer
oh, okay.
and and spiritual leader. Yeah, he is in some ways not as well known, but really as important, certainly, as Lao Tzu.
Huh. I don't think I've ever read anything by him.
They're fascinating,
And wow.
but they uh, they can take some interpretation because um, they're written in ways that are difficult to grasp the entire meaning. You certainly get good meaning out of them, but the entire meaning is um, hidden in what it's pointing to as much as what it says.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's
Right.
another topic.
Right.
It
Right.
never stops.
No.
Um, So, questions in the form?
Uh, I don't think I have any specific ones. Um, I can flow and you can tell me what I should be thinking about.
Well, I was trying to think. Well, of course, uh, always breathing, but and keeping.
Right. That's what I worked on this week was just trying to keep my regular long breath flowing and not stopping.
Yeah,
So that was what I did try and do when I flowed this week.
and obviously, ideally, you're doing breathing without breathing in the form.
Not always.
No,
Uh,
certainly to begin with, definitely not always.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but um, there is no possible way of breathing well if you don't do that,
mhm. Okay.
because every posture is a different length. So your breath. If you're aligning your breath with the movement, it's going to be really weird
Right.
and very hard to make regular. So
Yeah, that is true.
yeah,
When I do try and keep my breath flowing, I'm not aligning it with the postures.
yeah,
I'm just trying to keep it flowing for
ab-
that very reason.
absolutely, absolutely. Um,
And when I say I don't when I'm trying to do breathing without breathing when I flow, I don't really do it for an entire flow. I will do it for parts when it kicks in, and then I'm focusing on it's very rare that that's the only thing I focus on if I'm going to flow is breathing without breathing. So
mhm.
usually I do it for part of the flow, then don't do it for part when I'm focusing on the other parts that I'm focusing on for that flow. So, whereas in the past, years ago, when it was, I used to be able to do it pretty much through the whole form, but that
Yeah.
was a while back.
So it's I guess what one of the things I would say is that it's really good if you can only focus on one thing when you're flowing like that,
Yeah, yeah,
because to hop around means that you're not doing any of them fully.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
so, and also, you don't always have to do a full flow. You can take a section
mm,
and focus on it, particularly a section that is either difficult or you have questions about, or whatever. Um,
right.
we Too often we fall into thinking um, that just flowing through is a good practice. Well, yeah,
Right.
it's not a bad practice, but um, if we don't focus on whatever we need to develop, um, we just keep doing the same things over and over.
Right. Yeah, and that is a trap I fall into because a lot of times I don't have much time to practice, and I think to myself, "Gee, well, if I flowed 3 times this week, at least I flowed 3 times this week." And it's not empty flows, but it's not necessarily focused in that way either. So you're right about that.
Yeah, yeah. And if you think about it, if you have an area of the form that you want to focus on, uh, you can do it 3 or 4 times when you would have flowed through that.
Yeah, and I occasionally I do that, David, but it's almost always with wave hands when I do that. because
Mm,
that involves so many things that I kind of need to work on. And so that's the one that I almost, when I do just a section, it's usually that section. And
uh-huh.
I'll do it several times and for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wave hands is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's the best one. So it's my default when I need to just kind of focus on hands not crossing the middle and continual motion and in and out and relaxing the fingers and the breath, everything. It just kind of helps me.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do it endlessly too. Keep going back and forth.
Yes, you can.
I don't just do it 3 times. I may do it 12 or 15 times just to keep
Yeah.
going back and forth. So
And certainly if you can really get all the pieces to work in that, you can apply that in other parts of the form too,
right, right.
because it should all flow like that.
Yeah,
Not
it
only
should.
that, not only that one.
Right. Yeah, it should, and occasionally it does, but not
Yep.
enough.
Oh, well, that's true for all of us. It's not
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe you do a flow and
Yep. Okay.
I'll see what I can see.
I'll try and stay in view as much as I can. I may need to adjust a few times as always. But,
Yep. There's a lot of good parts of that, Jeff.
Right.
Um, Let me get back here and um, as always, I have a suggestion or two.
Hopefully more than that.
Um, in Grasping Sparrow's Tail, one of the things that well, I'm gonna stay kind of close here so you can see my
Yep.
hands.
Okay.
Um, this way. Notice as I go to pong that my hands are continuously rotating. Go to the right position, David. They don't
Right.
they don't just come straight up. They are continuously rotating and expanding through that movement.
Right.
And when you when you go into um, G, you have to keep the dantian rotating all the way through till you complete G.
Right. Okay.
And G includes an in and an out. And it looked to me
Hmm.
like the in was not there. Now that,
Um, yeah, I've made that smaller and smaller. I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it energetically, but not so much with the hands. But I know what you mean.
well, it needs to be present anyway. Um,
Okay.
um, it's certainly happening energetically. I no question about that.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
um, Single whip seems to me actually, admittedly, a little hard to see there, but it had the feeling to me of just going into it was just going back and forth. That the rounding was not there. The sphericalness. You've got to
Oh, right.
always think about sphericalness.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Um,
true.
so that when you go um, into this, you're going in and out and in and out.
Right.
So it,
I
it
stay. I very much often, almost always, I guess, because I don't think about that. I
yeah,
stay on the same plane. Yeah. Just I was going back and forth. You're right. I do fall into that trap.
yep,
I forget about that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Pull down seemed good to me.
Yeah.
Um, what I didn't what felt unclear, a little unclear about certainly was that you were really twisting and bending in as you rotated.
Okay.
So um, we good, David. We get through here, and that
Yeah.
turn is a twist and bend in, which gives you some way to extend and twist out when you shift back.
Right.
So you want to have a real sense of that movement.
Right. Yeah. I need more twisting in that.
Yeah,
I think the bend was there, but I not enough twisting. You're right.
yeah. Um, Shoulder was pretty good actually. Um, White crane. I what happened there was kind of interesting. Um, it felt really good through um, not white crane, white goose,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden when you went into Lu, the hands took over.
Oh, okay.
So um, we get to the end of white goose. This is a bending in, out. There's
Okay.
um, actually at the very beginning of uh, Lu, um, we have an out and an in, and then an in and an out in on. So there's
Okay.
a little bit more going on there than I felt
Yeah.
I, I saw there.
Okay.
Um, in wave hands, I agree that's a good one for you to work on uh,
Yeah.
because it seemed to me you were still getting stuck. Um, that 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 continual rotation that we're
Right.
trying to find there did not always occur.
Right.
And remember that part of that is that when you go from down and under and you
Yeah.
sink and turn and step for that you want to come to that point where yes you've compressed into the sphere in your hands, but you're on a bit of an angle. You're not
Right.
here. You're here.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that because that gives you, because on this side, on the left side, you have to shift and rotate, and you don't want to get to the fullness of your extension until you're clear, you've completed that movement outward.
Right.
And then it begins to condense in to smaller
Yeah.
and out on the other side.
Right.
And then when you come back, again, not coming to here, but coming to here so that
Right.
you have that
More
turn on the
rotation.
step
Right.
to get out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it is finding how you can make that circle just continue and have the expansion and contraction. I mean, everything's going on there.
Right. Right.
It's you're right. It's a great posture to work on.
Yeah.
Um, um, in doing lift hand, it seemed to me that um, you, you turned left, but you didn't turn back to the right as you went forward. So
Hmm.
you're
Okay.
turning when you actually turn left to step into your bow stance, and you turn
Right.
right and come forward to complete the posture.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably from the angle I was at, it didn't look like I did it much, and I may have only done it a slight amount on that one, but I'm usually pretty good at that. It's probably
Okay,
the camera angle more than anything that time.
okay,
And then
good.
my understanding is that we always that from that point also we kind of continue that rotation to go into uh, uh,
Hi, Pat.
continue turning left to go into separate. I'm not.
Well, you're
I'm drawing a blank. You know what?
first. Hi, Pat. First, you
iPad. Thank
turn
you.
right into the completion of lift hand, and
Yep.
then you have to get how do I round the corner
Yeah.
to go back in the other direction. So, not allowing yourself to boom, boom, but
Yeah.
finding,
That I do that. Boom, boom. Right. I need to find the roundness in that corner. I don't think of that. You're right.
yeah.
Yep.
Um, but this section was very good. I like um, your subdued tiger was good. You had the twisting in and out, and your kicks are good. Um, it felt like the kick to the other side and your single whip. Um, I I think your single whip was rotating to completion. It looked like it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm pretty good with that single whip.
yeah. Push down was fine. Your um, pounding with the fist was good.
Right. And I'm working on that a little bit still too with the blade hand coming down and kind of curving out a little bit too. And I'm trying to
Yeah,
make sure I always work that into it.
yeah. Um, chop with fist. It seemed to me that you had the same problem as earlier at Peng and G. Um,
Right. Right.
your your offering incense was good. Um, actually, it's interesting that it seemed to me that the end um, section of the form was flowing better for you than the beginning.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, I'm working on gargoyles a bit more too. That's still a little bit awkward for me, but I'm trying to get that and the arm rotation and the arm positioning at the end and
Yeah,
all of
and
that. So
you you were getting that. The turns were in there, um,
yeah,
so that was good.
and that's a focus for me as well. That particular posture, the two gargoyles.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm well. Do you have other
okay.
questions?
No, that was great. Thank you. Uh, I will be referring to this class numerous times, I'm sure.
Well,
Very good.
it was good to be able to focus on you.
Yeah. No, I'm worked out great.
For you.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry Bill wasn't here, but I'm glad I was able to take advantage of it.
Yep. And I'm sure he'll learn from what you learned.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, how are things there?
Yeah, everything's pretty good. It's Jesse's got a month of school left. 4 weeks.
Uh huh.
4 weeks from tomorrow, actually, I think is his last day. Maybe. Yeah. 4 weeks from tomorrow, and he and Kate go to Australia for 7.5 weeks. They leave early June and come back August 1st, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
we worked that out. That'll give me time to do a lot of other things that I'm way behind on in life, and give him a chance to really enjoy his vacation with his cousins and his grandparents in Australia. And
Yeah, that'll be nice. I
yeah.
assume that'll be a good thing.
Oh yeah, he enjoys it very much. That's what we did last summer, and it was good for Kate to be with her family for an extended period, and really good for Jesse because especially not having brothers or sisters, he in our regular daily life he doesn't have somebody here to play with other than Kate and I, which isn't the same.
Nope.
Um, so it's nice that he has four cousins living very close to where he'll be, and
Oh,
that works out
good.
well. And makes his summer vacation a lot better,
Yep.
and
Yep.
keeps a strong connection with his with Kate's side of the family and her
That's
parents, and
good. Yeah.
yeah, that's very important. So, okay. So it's
Y-
all going all right.
Do you know when you're coming up?
I don't know yet, David. I think it's going to be one of two things. Either right before they leave for Australia, which means it would be like June 1st or so for maybe 4 or 5 days, or when they come back, which would mean the very beginning of August before Jesse starts school, and he starts school
Mm,
like the 10th or the 12th. I haven't decided yet because it all depends on how my mother is doing physically and mentally.
yeah.
Um, when Jesse and I were up there uh, last, it was good, but it's we'll see. It all depends. So I'm actually leaving it towards last minute. I haven't booked flights or anything. I'm kind of monitoring how she's doing.
Mm,
I won't go into all the details, but it would be a wasted trip if she wasn't up for it physically and mentally.
yeah.
Mentally
Yeah.
more so, mentally more so than physically.
Yep.
So, but she's fighting cancer right now. She's getting treatments. She's had like
Oh,
I think next week is her fourth chemo treatment. It's pretty serious. So we definitely want to be up there one of those two times, either very early June or very early August.
okay.
So as soon as I know, I will let you know because it would certainly be a high priority to get over there and see you and hopefully have a class as well. So
Yeah. I hope so. That'd be great.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay. Well,
And
hang in
you're
there.
doing okay? You
Oh, yeah.
feeling good? You look good.
Actually, I'm good.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can usually tell from the energy in your voice and how you sound, and even beyond just the physical things. Like even if I just hear you talk, I can tell if you're doing particularly well or struggling a little on that day or whatever. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. I've had a really good stretch here.
Yeah, that's great.
I think the pacemaker made a big difference.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
fingers crossed that it continues.
yep, I'm even starting one new one
New
that
class, you mean?
I'm doing. Yeah, starting a new beginning Taoist meditation class.
That's the Thursday one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought real hard about it, but it's just the later I get into the week, the more difficult it is for me to practice or especially to commit to a class on specific times. So I had
yeah,
to in my mind just not pursue it because I don't know that I could really put
yeah.
anything into it that would make it worthwhile to do. But how many people did you get sign up for it?
Five.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's
Great.
great.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's good. So we'll have
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you will. It's one of those things where if I was up there, I would certainly be doing it, but I'm not up there, so
No, you're
unfortunately,
not.
no.
You're a long way away.
Yeah, that is true. All
But
right. Well,
it's
thank you
great
for the
seeing you.
class. I appreciate it. Yeah, you
Yep,
too. I always enjoy these solo classes. All right,
absolutely.
take care, David. We'll
You
see you
too,
next
buddy.
week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.